All right, guys, welcome to our team call tonight. We have an incredible speaker lineup for you. First off, I'm going to get some housekeeping out of the way. So we have this month, it is August 13th. I'm losing track of the days now that school is back in session. I don't know what day it is with homework. I feel like I'm back in school. I don't know if you guys have your back in school yet, but my mind's all over the place. So this month, guys, Morning Meltdown 100, I am loving the program. I'm on day 17. I think Justin and I did 17 today. He's liking it. He doesn't like the cardio days, but he's liking the other days. And we're both sore. We're getting results. I'm really enjoying it. This month, it's $20 off. So if you guys want to take advantage of that. And then our promo codes, that's a huge opportunity to help people with this awesome program. For me, promo codes are just another way to get people in the door with a discount. I don't know about you guys, but I love a good discount. Anywhere I go, if someone tells me it's $5 off, $10 off, I'm like, I'm there. And especially moms, I mean, those are my people that I speak to. They love a good discount. So when I'm like, hey, you can get $10 off this month, they're like, yes, sign me up. And just another way to change someone's life, right? So more on those codes. If you want some tips on the National Wake Up Call, Michael did, it was phenomenal. That was 2 weeks ago. Go back and listen into the Beachbody 411 page. And he shared all about promo codes and how to use them, how to take advantage of them, and just great tips on using them. Our bobblehead. I don't know if you guys know, but this month you get a bobblehead if you hit Success Club, which is so cool. I know for me, I am such a Beachbody geek, so I wanted to show you guys. I wanted to give you a little visual about my craziness. So I have Autumn Calabrese here. I have Shalene Johnson. I have Tony Horton over here. Sagi Khalif, Joel Freeman, and I have Shanti over here, which his head is a disaster. But I wanted to show you guys, I know it's so dumb, but I take a lot of pride in these bobbleheads because not only have I changed a lot of lives with these programs that they have come out with, it's a token and it's a symbol that I have helped a lot of people, right? I've moved my business forward because of these programs, and I've moved our family's life forward because of these programs. So don't think another bobblehead, another little whatever. Like, there's significance behind these. These are in my gym. I look at them every single day, and I think of what's behind this bobblehead. So I know, silly illustration, I know, but I just had to share that with you guys because I'm excited to get the new bobblehead this month, right, with Jericho. So don't forget about that. You're going to remember that I told you about this stupid bobblehead, but there's meaning behind it. And I'm going to get mine. I'm going to show you guys and flash it all in your all's face. So last thing, leadership, guys. So we have Diesel Nation Leadership Retreat in Orlando, Florida. I know you've seen Christina and everyone share all about that. And then following that in October, right? So the Diesel Nation Retreat in Orlando is next month. So 4 weeks, I believe. And then we have the Beachbody Leadership Retreat in Scottsdale, Arizona. So you might be thinking, well, I'm not qualified for those, right? Just like many of you were at Summit and you saw people being recognized and it was like, wow, right? Like Christmas and butterflies. Like, I want to be there one day, right? To get to these retreats, right? There's qualifications or whatnot. But I just want to inspire you guys, and I just want to plant a seed right now that as you see us going to these retreats, think you are going to be there next year, right? If you get to work and you start implementing, right? Because we have a lot of time for you to get there next year. So instead of like kind of sulking, right, that you're not there at these retreats and feeling down and losing momentum, I want you to use that as fuel and fire to move your business forward and move what you have right now going on with all these awesome things and deals and whatever to move your business and life forward, right? So take advantage of that, because I was once sitting behind the screen watching my coach go to all these events, and I was not qualified for them. And I said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there with the most incredible people, growing and learning and just, you know, becoming a better person, right? And then just, I don't know, it's like soul food for what we do as coaches. So that's going to be happening. So I just wanted to plant that seed with you guys to get there and start working on it right now as this approaches, because you have time. Everything you do right now counts towards every trip coming up. So without further ado, I had to knock MM100 out of the way, promo codes, bobblehead, all that great stuff out of the way. I don't know about you guys, but I am so pumped up from Summit still. Like, I just have this fire and this momentum, this energy. Everything from Summit was what we needed, I think, as a team and as a network and just as a family community. It fueled my soul with Rachel Hollis and with Jade Simmons, phenomenal speakers. So I'm gonna introduce our speaker because I could ramble all day, but we have an incredible speaker, Doug Stewart. Let me give you a little introduction on him. We met at church. This was when we were fairly new to our church, I would say back around the holidays, and then he spoke a couple months after that, I believe, and we heard him speak for the first time, and we were just blown away. I mean, he was a great speaker. He has a lot of knowledge. He's faithful. He just is a great leader and coach and all these great things that he is, but we're just blown away. And then he started a small group, which he also leads, and we thought, wow, that'd be great to get in his small group. We kind of like strategically worked our way in since he started around the same time and we were fairly new. We wanted to join a small group. So we got in a small group, and he's just a great person. He has a beautiful family, a beautiful wife, Meredith, and they have 2 kids, which I'm sure he'll introduce himself. But he is a coach. He is not a Beachbody coach, but he is a coach. He coaches people. He is a Dale Carnegie instructor. He's a TEDx presenter, which is so cool. And he has other awesome accolades. But with further ado, welcome, Doug. Thank you so much for coming tonight and speaking into our hearts and souls, and with your leadership and knowledge. We're so happy to have you.
For sure. Thank you. So I thought we would start at the beginning.
Sorry.
Yes,
if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat, because we're going to do kind of a Q&A at the end. And blow up the chat, guys. If there's something that speaks to your heart or speaks to you, or you have an aha moment, just throw it there. Just be open. Don't be shy. Just put it in the chat. All right.
So let's start at the beginning. Can you hear me? First, let's just start there. Everybody hear me? Okay, cool. So let's start at the beginning. Most of our parents, or the people that were in charge of us, or the people that raised us, most of them were well-intentioned, good people that were doing the best they could with what they were working with. And if the people who raised you are like the people who raised me, they tried their best to make a well-rounded person that could contribute to society and not be a drain on society, right? That was like their life plan for their son. The problem for me was, though, is that I couldn't be well-rounded because I was a one-trick pony from the very beginning. And so as a kid, I was a really good athlete. I was an awful student. And I was a good enough athlete for a college to give me a scholarship, even though I didn't have the grades to support it. And then I actually ended up graduating from college, which for a kid that had a 6th grade reading comprehension as a 22-year-old who's grossly and unbelievably dyslexic, who had sensory issues and speech impediments and all these other issues, was really incredible that I even graduated college. And my wife, though, is, and to Danielle's point, she's a beautiful woman, but she's also really she's brilliant. And so she graduated college. I like to say it like this: my wife graduated college cum laude, and I graduated college thank the laude. And what I found as a result of being an awful student is I found the ability to really double down on one thing, which was being an athlete. But my problem was is the athlete thing sort of ran out, and people stopped paying me, paying for my education, paying for my housing to be an athlete at some point. So I had to figure out some other things. And I think the time that I really understood personal branding the best was my first day of college. So I show up to college. It's the very first day. I go to the gym. I'm doing my first workout, and I'm feeling really good about myself, right? I'm a highly sought after recruit. A lot of people really liked me. I was going to be sort of the next best thing at my school. So I finished my workout. I've got on my brand new sweatsuit, my brand new shoes, and I was feeling like really good about myself. And I'm walking from the gym. I'm on my way to my dorm for the first time, and I'm not really walking as much as I'm like strutting. Like it's more of a sashay than a walk. And as I'm walking, I see in the distance the cheerleading team coming my way. Nobody else is around, and my first thought is like, this is my chance. This is my chance to start my brand here at school. And so the closer they got, the more I was thinking about, how am I going to present myself? What am I going to say? How am I going to make a statement? And so I got a little bit, and for some reason, I don't know if you've noticed this, but usually cheerleading teams, they walk in like a V formation. So like there's like the leader, and then everybody else kind of falls in line. And so they're in this V formation, and the cheerleader at the very front. As we approach, she looks at me and she goes, "Hey." And without missing a beat, I looked right at her and I said, "Good." And I was mortified, embarrassed. I had said something really stupid. There was no coming back from it. And so I learned two really valuable things about personal brand in that moment. The first thing is you never get a second chance to make a good first impression, right? That's stuff our grandmother and grandfathers might have taught us. But here's the other thing, that there were three things that were true in that moment. The first thing is that there was a way I wanted them to see me. There was a way I wanted them to perceive me. That was the first thing. The second thing is there was the way that I really was. There was the reality of who I was. And then the third was there was a way that they actually experienced me. And so I learned in that moment that my personal brand, and I believe this to be true about you, your personal brand can be found at the intersection between their perception of you and your reality. And your personal brand is never the absolute truth. And so I can remember something my grandfather used to talk about a lot. He would say, the bad things people say about you aren't 100% true, and neither are the good things. And the thing that happens for us as coaches when we choose to put ourselves out there, we open opportunity for the world to judge and criticize and say sort of whatever they want to, or think whatever they want about our coaching, about our model, about our opinions, the way we look, the way we come across, right? And so this is some of the best advice I got when it comes to dealing with people and the way they see our personal brand. No matter what people think of you, always cut it in half and then divide it by 2. And then you're somewhere close to the truth, whether they're talking positively or whether they're talking negatively. Because what happens, I think, sometimes is we take our reality, because we're in this digital space, right? I do a lot of my communication digitally too. And we try to connect with people. But what ends up happening is we end up just comparing ourselves, our reality, like the reality of like, this all looks good back here. And I'm really excited about how well lit I am right here. But the truth is, about 45 minutes ago, downstairs was chaos. My son was losing his mind. He was exhausted. My daughter was taking too long in the shower. Like, the kitchen's not clean yet. Like, my reality is chaos a lot of the times. And what happens is, if I'm comparing myself to other people and the way I see them digitally, I'm comparing my reality to other people's highlight reels. And that gives such a tremendous hit to our confidence, which ends up impacting later on our everything, right? It impacts the way we show up, the courage that we have to show up, and what I find a lot of times for myself, and you may have had this experience as well, when I compare my reality to other people's highlight reels, what really ends up happening is I start to back away. I start to be less aggressive. And when I am aggressive and when I am out there, I feel like a fraud. But I think something that has been really important for me, and perhaps would be really important for you when you think about your personal brand, is everybody has a junk drawer, and everybody's closet is jacked up, and everybody's kid has a meltdown in Target every once in a while. And so that's really kind of the starting point that a place that I'd really like us to start is with the understanding that it's important for us to know that our personal brand is not reality. The way people see us, the way people think about us, even if it's positive, it's not as positive as we want to believe. Even if it's negative, we're never as bad as people say we are. So I thought that what I would do this evening is just share a handful of things that's been really valuable for me as a coach. And I recognize that there are many highly skilled coaches and communicators on this call. And so instead of giving you like 3 points or 3 ideas, I thought I would throw out like 6 or 7 different sort of quick hitter things, and perhaps you could pick and choose and kind of cherry pick the things that are best for you. And as you have questions or comments or whatever, just throw them up in the chat, and we'll just kind of jam as we go. So here's the first thing, that there are only 2 types of people in the world, especially in our business, especially when it comes to coaching. The first type are those who use others to benefit themselves. Those who use other people to benefit themselves. The second type are people that use themselves to benefit others. Only 2 types. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, the truth is we oscillate between both types of people, don't we? We all want to be the type that uses ourselves for the good of other people, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes we aren't as good as we'd like to be. And so the awareness of, and this is a question that I ask myself a lot, in fact, is something that I have on my wall in my office, is what type of person are you choosing to be? And it reminds me that I have to have an awareness. I have to have a mental awareness as a coach. My responsibility is to use my skill set, my ability to communicate, to be a service to other people. And that's the thing that fills up my piggy bank. Like it's something that it's a super old concept in sales. Zig Ziglar used to say, the more people I help be successful, the more successful I will in turn end up being. And the truth is we get to choose. We get to choose which one of those 2 people that we are in every single moment, in every single interaction. And it's important to remember that building a personal brand isn't about self-promotion. It's not about self-promotion. So the next thing that I would share with you is the best advice I've ever received about building a personal brand is this: don't be a personal brand, just be a person. Don't be a personal brand, be a person. Because I believe it's true. And Beachbody is a fantastic example of this, that people want a professional. People want a professional to be able to lead them, to give them information, to give them insight, to give them the fast track, to give them any edge that they can get. People don't want to do it the slow way. They want to do it the best way. Sometimes people want to take shortcuts, but in general, the people that we're working with, the people that you're working with, are willing to do the work, and they do want a professional. But if there's something that they want more than a professional, it's this: it's a professional who's also a practitioner. They want someone who is doing the work with them. And I find that to be true in my coaching practice. And my coaching practice is way more around relationships, with helping people build relationships with others and with themselves. And so there's not the same physical aspect as you have in addition to what I do. But one thing that I find to be true is people want to know that I'm also doing my work. And it's led me to believe, as I've communicated how I'm doing my work with people, it's taught me this to be true, that we connect as human beings. We connect through our vulnerabilities way more than we do through our victories. Like, it's all good. It's all good for us to be like, hey, look what I've done, look what I've accomplished. Like, there's time for the celebrations, but there's also time for us to be able to look into the lens of our phone or into the eyes of someone that we're coaching and say, I had a bad day. I messed this up. I missed my workout yesterday, right? But now I'm recommitting, right? But that vulnerability to say, hey, I'm on this journey too. I'm not perfect. I haven't reached enlightenment yet. I haven't reached I have not become Tony Horton yet. You know what I mean? Like I mess up. I had a milkshake yesterday, like whatever it is. But showing the people who we're motivating that sometimes our motivation can get a little shaky is just as valuable as beating the drum and saying, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Both of those things are things I believe our people need to see. In fact, Danielle mentioned that I was privileged enough to give a TEDx talk back in 2016. And the way that I ended up getting on stage is because I went and did a free talk. It was an industry talk. I grew up in the furniture business. So it was a furniture industry conference. And I went and did a talk about how I failed in business. And part of that talk was about how I had found some mentors after I had failed in business, and how I had used those mentors to help me recover from the failure. And then that portion about mentorship ended up being the genesis for the talk that made me end up on the TEDx stage. And many people look at that and they go, wow, that'd be really cool to give a TEDx talk, or it's really whatever. But the truth is the reason I ended up there is because I was willing to be vulnerable in front of like 200 people and walk through all the ways that I had screwed up in business and all the failures that I had really early in my career. Here's the next thing. When it comes to social media, this one to me is the most valuable one, maybe to my personal coaching business, is this. Social media is a party. It's not a pulpit. It's a party, not a pulpit. Think about it like this. The last time you went to a party, who was your favorite person at the party? Was it the person that was trying to you? That's awesome. Your favorite person at the party, other than yourself, was likely not the person who was preaching and trying to get you to change your mind about something, right? It's not the person that was ranting or complaining. It was likely this person. It was the person who was interested in you. That's always our favorite person at the party. The person that asks you questions, that shows genuine interest. And the same is true when it comes to how we communicate with people on social media. And so think about it like this. If you think about social media, whether we're talking Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or wherever you hang out the most and interact with your people the most, if you think about it as a party instead of as a pulpit, then that means if it's a party, I'm going to go around and I'm going to talk to people and be interested in people, because I know this to be true. Maybe this isn't true for you, but when someone's interested in me and is willing to ask me questions and engage with me, there's one attribute that they as my daughter would say, they automatically get. There's one attribute that I automatically attribute to them. And it's this. I automatically believe that they're probably intelligent. I believe they're smart because they must be smart. They're interested in me. Yeah? Right? Doesn't that make sense? Like, anytime that someone comes up to you and is interested in you and asking questions, then we automatically assume a couple of things: that they're probably intelligent, that they're probably trustworthy, they're probably kind, they probably have a positive character, they're someone that we would want to hang out with. We believe that we know them faster, we like them more, and we trust them more. And so the way that applies to social media is we should be doing less distributing of content, which content distribution is really important. We'll talk about that in a second. But even more than that, we should be commenting, we should be encouraging, we should be sending direct messages, we should be distributing content that lets people know that we're genuinely interested in them. And it doesn't have to be anything long, but letting people know that we see them, we think about them. It's more than just double tapping and liking other people's posts. This is going into the comment and saying something positive about the person, asking a question of the person, and letting them know that not only are we here to distribute content or to distribute thought leadership, but we're also here to interact in a meaningful way. And so treating social media as a party way more than as a pulpit, I believe that has been for me one of my primary ways that I've grown my business. It's also important to think about it like this, is that it's our responsibility to make people the hero of their own story. If we're the hero of their story, then they're gonna falter at any opportunity they get. And so if they are their hero, the thing is that you're gonna leave them. You know, like you might be on a call with them, they might watch your story, they might be a part, like, but at some point they're gonna not be with you. And the downside of that is they've got to stay with themselves 100% of the time. So let's make sure we're propping up and encouraging the person they've got to stay with all the time, instead of propping ourselves up as the person that they have to have in order for them to be successful, because we all know that that's just not true. That leads me to the next idea, which is the idea of accountability, and that accountability is 2 words. It's not just 1 word. So if you think about accountability, when we talk about people we're coaching, our clients, gosh, any relationship we have for that matter, accountability being 2 words, account and ability. So many people think of accountability as like a negative thing, right? Like, don't you have like a rush of adrenaline when someone looks at you and goes, I'm going to hold you accountable for that. That always sucks. Nobody likes to hear that. But the truth is we can approach accountability in a different way, to say, I'm going to account for your ability, not I'm going to hold you to a standard that you can't reach, which is oftentimes what accountability is. So here's an example. My son, and let me show you an example of who I'm talking about here. This is my little guy. This is Kendrick. Kendrick just turned 11 months, and he just started walking. And the way I don't, maybe if you've ever been around a kid at that age, you've seen this. So you can't just expect them to do it. No parent can just let their kid go, like, figure it out themselves. We always feel the need to, like, teach them to walk. And so what happens is we would walk over to one side of the room. We would stand Kendrick up. We would let him lean on the coffee table. We would run to the other side of the room, and then we would do things like we'd jump up and down and we'd scream and we'd celebrate and we'd clap and we'd call him over and we'd try to get him to walk. And we would act in ways that we would never act in public while sober. And so he would take a step and then another step, and then he'd wobble a little bit, and then he'd fall. And so the way we fixed that is we started criticizing him and telling him, you know, that's unacceptable. Stand up. We know you can walk. What's your problem? We're in this family, we walk, and we don't tolerate that sort of behavior, right? Like, that's how normally we think about accountability. But before you call social services on me, don't you know that no good parent would do that, right? What do we do when he falls? He takes a step, he takes another step, he wobbles, he falls. What do we do? Yeah, like, good job, buddy. Let's do it again. It's okay, right? So what we do as parents, and what good parents do for their children, is they praise the slightest improvement and they praise every improvement. Because it would be cruel and unjust for me to say, I know my son, if he can take 1 step, then he can take 11 steps. But just because he can take 1 doesn't mean he can get across the room. So I have to account for his current ability to go, you know what, 2 steps is a success. 3 steps is a success. 4 steps is probably not going to happen right now. And if I'm encouraging him in that way, he's more likely to stand up and continue to try. If I'm encouraging every improvement and I'm encouraging the slightest improvement. And so thinking about accountability in terms of accounting for the ability of other people and encouraging instead of breaking down, I believe is one of the best ways to really motivate people in a positive way. Here's one of my favorite quotes that I thought I would share with you is a quote from St. Francis, and it says, humans tend to live themselves into new ways of thinking more than they think themselves into new ways of living. I'll read it again because I know that one can be tough to follow. Humans tend to live themselves into new ways of thinking more than they think themselves into new ways of living. So when it comes to how we encourage people and how we hold people accountable, it's really important that we're always focusing on action, and we're always focusing on intention, action and intention. Because if we can get people to consistently take action, they will succeed. Even if they're failing forward, they will end up gaining momentum and they will end up becoming more successful. And so no one ever changed their life by thinking about it. We don't start changing our life until we start actually doing something. And so our job as coaches is to encourage people to do things, because action is the thing that reveals answers, not thinking. Because the people that we coach are much more likely to live themselves into new ways of seeing themselves than they are to think themselves into new ways of seeing themselves. I hope that makes some sense. This other model, we use this in my coaching practice. It's called Be, Do, Get. And I'm happy also. I'm happy also to send out notes and even a recording of this. Danielle, if you're not getting the recording, I can send it out if it would be helpful. So Be, Do, Get is an important one, because there's three sort of buckets. And most of the time we focus on the get. So think about the get as the result. So that's kind of the last thing we want. The middle thing is the do, which is the behaviors that we have to do to get the outcome that we want. And so what we do most of the time, and a lot of coaches do this too, and I see many coaches do this in my part of the coaching world, is they'll go, okay, if you want to get this result, here's the behavior change that's necessary. Change your behavior. And they don't think about who the person needs to be. Because the thing is if you focus on the be, what will end up happening if you focus on who they need to be and the perspective they need to take, then they will naturally do the things they need to do to get the outcomes they need to get. Here's a personal example. Earlier this year, I decided that I wanted to get a little healthier. I realized from my college days, as I'm looking at pictures of myself, I realized that I didn't have the same physique as I had once when I was a Division I college athlete. I didn't look the way I used to look. And, I'm looking at some of these guys on like Instagram, and some of these guys have like the bodies of gods, right? Like they're perfect. And I had to admit that I didn't look that way. Now, I in my opinion, I did have the body of a god. It's just that it was Buddha, which wasn't ideal for the outcome that I wanted. And so I decided that there were some things I needed to do. I needed to start working out 3 times a week, and like actually working out, not just like setting time aside and just like going through the motions. I needed to start eating better, making better decisions about my diet. And I needed to change my environment, meaning I needed to make sure there aren't chips and Oreos and things around. I needed to take the candy out of my office, right? I needed to create an environment. But the thing is I've done this before. I've committed to working out before, and I've changed my diet before, and I've thrown away the garbage food before. But it seems to always come back in like 5-6 months, right? It never sticks. And so I started to change and go a step deeper and not think about the behavior change that needed to happen. I thought about who I needed to be. And so I made a few commitments to myself. I said, I am, and I created some I am statements. And the first thing I said is that I am a person who cares about my health. I'm a person that cares about my health. I am an athlete. And the third thing is, I am a person who wants to be around for his grandkids. Those are the three things that were important to me. And so here's what that caused. When I started believing those things about myself, the truth is the person who cares about their health, when you go out to eat with someone that cares about their health, don't they eat differently than people that don't care about their health? Don't they naturally make better choices with their nutrition? Don't they take the supplements they need to take to be healthy? When you know people who care about their health, they naturally do the things that people that care about their health do. When I started thinking about myself as an athlete, well, what do athletes do? Athletes go to the gym and actually work out when they're in the gym. They go for a run. Like, they can't not exercise because athletes exercise. And then the third thing is I want to be around for my grandkids. So people that want to live a long and healthy life, they don't put garbage around them. And so when I started seeing myself and changing my perspective, then I naturally changed my behavior, which gave me the outcome that I originally wanted. So it was deeper than just behavior change. So as we're coaching people and we're helping people and we're talking people through, it's important for us to remember that it's not just about them changing their behavior, it's about them changing the way that they see themselves. All right, a couple of quick things and I'm done. So that's be, do, get. The next thing is, as coaches, we must give questions and not answers. The best coaches, the absolute best coaches, are coaches that disappear behind the actions and ideas of their client. The best coaches disappear behind the actions and ideas of their client. So what that means is the quality of the questions we ask will determine the quality of our people's results. Because if we're asking questions, then that means they're thinking. If we're telling them things, like watch, you don't even have to respond, just think in your mind. First thing that comes in your mind, when I say up, you think. When I say in, you think. When I say left, you think. When I say I'm right, you think. No, you're not. Right? As humans, we have a natural negativity bias. And so when we're telling people what they should think and what the right answers are, then they have to run it through this negativity bias in their mind, and they have to decide whether they agree with us or not. When we're asking them questions and leading them to an answer, then they more naturally get to the positive answer. Because I don't know about you, but I've loved every idea I've ever had. I've loved it. I fall in love with every idea I have. But if you give me an idea, I got to run that through the filter. Because I don't know. But if I have the idea, I love that idea. And so the best thing that we can do is ask questions, especially when we're one-on-one conversations, to ask questions to help them get to the answer instead of giving them the answer. Because giving them the answer, it doesn't change. That is only for behavior change. It's not for who they are. It's not for perspective change. Last two things. It's also important for us to show how enthusiastic we are about the business that we're in and about the change and the encouragement that we want to give people. A good example is, it wasn't very long ago when I was working on this keynote talk, and I was really thinking really hard, and I was up here in my office, and I got hungry and it was time for lunch. So I go downstairs. And I'm downstairs and I'm just like thinking hard, and I've got like my brow is furrowed and I'm just like in deep thought. My wife comes in the kitchen and she goes, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And I said, No, I'm fine. And she goes, "Well, what's wrong?" I said, "Nothing's wrong." She said, "Are you having an okay day?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm having an okay day." And she goes, "Are you sure? You look angry." And I said, No, I'm good. I'm just thinking. And she goes, "Well, then tell your face." And I think a lot of times what happens for us is we say one thing, but our face says a different thing. It's like the person when you ask them how their day is, and they're like, "Great, my day's good." Well, what do you believe? Do you believe their words, or do you believe how they looked and how they sounded when they said it? And so if we're going to hope for people to follow us, to listen to us, to take our advice, to be willing to be coached by us, we have to show them not just tell them. We got to show them with our face, with our tone, with our inflection, with our enthusiasm, with our energy, and not just with our words. Because words, it's like the old saying is that talk is cheap. So if you're excited about your work and your people, then tell your face. Here's the final thing. When it comes to influence and building a powerful personal brand, there's only two things. There's only two things that you need to do in order to accomplish this. The first thing is to do good work. With integrity, do good work. And the second thing is to just treat people well. And if you do those things, and you do those things with energy and enthusiasm, you can be an outstanding coach and you can build an outstanding personal brand. It may not be as fast as you want it to happen. It may not be the way you want it to look, but those are the only two things that matter when it comes to being a coach, is you do good work and you treat people well. And that's really what it takes. And so this has been really cool, and I'm really grateful you guys gave me an opportunity to be here. I thought that maybe I could jump into a couple of questions. How do I give them the tools to be their own hero? My wording and action post. Okay, so when you think about making people the sort of the hero of their own story, it's really a matter of just encouraging people. It's a matter of pointing out so behaviors are only symptomatic of perspective. People's behaviors are only a symptom of their perspective. And so think about it like this. The only reason the people that you're coaching ended up getting the results is because they started seeing themselves differently. And so if we want to make them the hero, then let's not point out behavior. And behavior is good. Behavior is just evidence, though. Let's point out characteristic. And so if they've done something, if they've done a behavior, then let's point out what characteristic trait is shining as a result of that behavior. And so, hey, great, if we're doing this 100-day challenge. Well, if they're 24 days in and haven't missed a workout, cool, that's a behavior. What characteristic did they display? What is that? Is that you are so committed. You're such a hard worker. It's amazing to see how much you care about your health and your family, right? Does that make sense? Because the behavior is only a sign of the perspective. So point out what perspective that is, and the more we point it out, the more they see it. And so what we want to do is really to help them to see their those perspectives, because the more we point them out, the more evidence and data points they have, the more likely they are to live into that story. There's enough people telling them they're garbage and not good enough. So let's be the people that offset that garbage that happens on social media. Let's be the people that offset the ignorance that happens. There's enough people doing bad, beating the drum for evil in the world, right? Let's be the people that counterbalance that messaging to the people that we're coaching, so that they have evidence that they are worthy, that they're enough, that they're worth the work that they're doing, that their family and their legacy is worth it. How do I keep my energy in good compartments for a coach where they are in business, because my energy is off the chain? So off the chain energy. So I've been accused of having too much energy as well. The way I think about that is my responsibility isn't for me. And it's not for me to show up in any way willy-nilly the way I want to show up. My responsibility is to be complementary to my client. It's not for them to just deal with it. So I have to, here's what great coaches do. They meet people where they are. If you have a lot of energy, great. But a lot of energy can also overwhelm some people. And it can cause some people to lock up and be blocked. And so we've all met the people, and that works the other way as well. That works the other way. If you're a little more, if you see yourself as a little more steady and a little more, maybe lack of a better term, more introverted, then for someone that's maybe a little more over the top, that's a client, you might lose them quick, because because they may see you as being someone that doesn't have enough energy. So one of the things to think about is your energy or your way to communicate has a spectrum. You have from 0 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour and everything in between. And you have the ability to manage that. So sometimes it's important for me to be really over the top, really dogmatic, really big, really, really boisterous to be able to get to a result with a client. But sometimes I've got to really slow down. I've got to really change. I've got to change the gear because I'm there to really complement and serve them for their outcomes. Because remember, it's their outcomes that's a gauge for our success. It's not our ability to perform as a coach. It's their ability to perform because they've been coached. And so complimenting our client is really, really important. Now, that doesn't mean you become someone different or act outside of your personality. But for people who think they only have one gear in their personality, have not had the opportunity to see the fullness and how dynamic and how complex they can really be. And so that would be my advice. Action reveals answers. Yes, that saying actually comes from a friend of mine. His name's Mark, and he is brilliant. It is being recorded. Yes, be the North Star. I love that.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, please, shoot.
Okay. You said, I love the thing that you said, like use others to benefit from, or use yourself so people, can you say that again? I screwed it up. Can you say it one more time? Because I wrote it
two
wrong.
types of people in the world. People that use others to benefit themselves and people that use themselves to benefit others.
Okay, how do I portray that on social media without sounding cocky? Like genuine, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like,
yeah.
I have 200 lives and they're better than ever. And, I want to be humble and I want them to feel my heart,
Yes, yeah. My dad was a fantastic baseball player. And one of the things that he would always say is he'd say, I never talk trash. I never tell people how good I am. My bat tells people how good I am. And so this is something that I've applied in my coaching practice is that I don't brag on myself very much because if I'm getting the results that I should be getting, my participants, my clients, my graduates, they brag. And so one of the ways that I would do that is for you can double down on the feedback you're giving the people that are getting results by pointing out perspectives and characteristics of the behaviors that you see from them. And so these are things that may be in direct messages. These may not even be public. But what happens is when you are a vital part of someone's transformation or someone's breakthrough, they tell people. And you can also shout people out without necessarily patting yourself on the back. We have to be careful not to be self-serving in this regard, but to be able to go on and say, hey, look, I've got this client that has done the work. And you say, look, my coach, I've been privileged to coach this person, but the truth is I've been the encourager. They've been the doer. And that gives you an opportunity to really talk about that person and make that person the hero of the story without going, hey, everybody, guess how great I am. Look at this person. They were a wreck when I found them, and now they're doing great because I'm so awesome, right? Right? There's two ways to do that. And if we're making our people, our clients, the heroes, then it makes it really easy to be the person who's using ourselves to benefit other people.
I have a question.
Cool.
I missed it.
Yes.
But talking about the hero on the stories. So we do a lot of obviously social media posting. And so on something like Instagram feed or even on Facebook, can you give kind of an example of how you would post about something that's not as candid as like IG stories or something like that, but like an actual caption for a post that would be putting them as the hero? Like, how would you word something like that? I mean, Can you sort of give an example? Something.
Yeah. So here's an example I shared in a new client meeting yesterday. So as a way to demonstrate my credibility by making one of my clients the hero of the story, is I talked about how I had a client who came to my practice, to my programming, and this person was having a terrible time with their team. They were a manager of about 6 people, and they were voluntold to work with me because they were talented, but they were kind of screwing up and their team hated them and they were falling apart. And so this person came and worked with me, and we did some real work, and we identified that the reason why this person was having such a hard time with his team had nothing to do with his competency at work. It turned out that he had spent 5 years as a contractor in Afghanistan and had missed his son's life from the time his son was 5 till the time his son was 10 years old. And so what that caused him as a father is he felt like he had missed some pivotal time in his son's life. And so he was really hard on his son. He was trying to make his son into a man and make up for lost time. So he was being really hard with him. And so what that did is that changed, and that put a real strain on his relationship with his wife. His wife did not like that. And it put a strain on his relationship with his 16-year-old daughter. His 16-year-old daughter didn't like it. And so he was slamming the door on the way out from home to go to work every morning, and had no emotional equity for his team. And so for 2 months, we worked on his relationship with his son, which impacted his relationship with his wife, which changed his relationship with his daughter. So when he went to work, he wasn't stressed out. He wasn't snapping at them anymore. He was more empathetic. He listened more. And so as a result of the work that he did through the program that was provided to him, then he was able to get a result that not only changed his team, it not only changed his work environment, it changed his family. And that is the value of the programming that we offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I make the story about him. So if I were to make that into a social media post, I would do a video and say the same thing.
Okay.
Because it's about him. It's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
I am just the function by which they're able to get there.
Yes.
The other thing that I would do is I would perhaps ask their permission to do a video with them. I would ask them to post a video and tag me so I can share it.
That's a good idea.
Especially because if they tag you, if they post a story and say, "Hey, look, I just went through this Beachbody thing. This was such a great experience," and they tag you, well, you can share it, and you do a video before that says, "You know what? My favorite thing about coaching is? My favorite thing about coaching is I get to see people have breakthrough and life-changing experiences. Here's an example. Next screen, their story, right? I mean, you talk about something that's compelling. That's not you going, "Hey guys, I've got this thing that's better than everybody else's thing," right? Even if it's better, everybody says their thing's better.
Right.
So that's one way to maybe get some real strong evidence.
You know, Demetria, something that I do, I just wanted to share this real quickly. When I shout people out on my social media page, like a challenger or a coach, I tell them that I'm going to shout them out, obviously, so I can get permission. But then I'll do like a 2 or 3 paragraph of just like a sincere shout out. And then I ask them to share a little part of their story of how they've evolved. And then I'll say like, you know, like Demetria, like challenger of the week, so proud of you. Here is Demetria's own words. And then so they can read it. So it's not me. And there's a little bio of her with a celebration.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just continuing to ask the question is, how can I make them the hero?
Yeah.
And then genuinely going after that story. Because that's the story that they want to share. Because the truth is, look, our clients, our audience, they're not thinking about us very much, if at all. They're just not. A good example of that is how many of you listening, like at, I don't know, 8, 8 o'clock tonight, 30 minutes before the call started, how many of you thought to yourself, man, I hope Doug's having a good day today? Like, I hope his kids are acting the way they should act. I hope his wife told him like how much she loves him and cares about him today. Like, I hope he didn't have a lot going on. I hope he's not stressed for any reason. I hope he feels good about this call and he's prepared. You know, of course you didn't think any of that. It never crossed your mind because you were thinking about the things that you had going on in your life, right? And that's how we work. It's not a bad thing. It's just the reality of the world we live in. And so the people that are interacting with you, they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about them. And so if we're talking about them, they listen. It's like our favorite person at the party is always the one that's interested in us. So if we're interested in them first, and we're that way consistently through commenting, through direct messages, through shout outs, then people look, I'll give you another example. I had a guy who has a podcast. It's a competitor, that's sort of a competitor to my podcast. And he mentioned me on his podcast, and he commented that he had mentioned me in the podcast. So I got a notification, and I knew good and well that the only thing he was doing was sort of using my name to do it. And I knew that, but you know what I did? I went and listened to the entire podcast to see where he talked about me. Even though I knew I wouldn't care. I couldn't help it, because he was talking about me. So I needed to know what he said, right? It's just the way we work, for better or for worse. Who has a final question? I think we're running short. Thank you, Stacy. I'm sure someone will make me lunch tomorrow. Cool. This has been awesome. I hope this has been helpful for you. It's been edifying and fun for me. If you're into it, feel free to connect with me. I'm most active on Instagram, and so I think Danielle shared my, and I'll put it.
Doug, it was phenomenal. I feel like my mind is blown just from things that you said. I didn't even have a chance to jot them all down, so I'm going to go back. This was recorded. I think what stood out to me the most, just kind of tying it all together, is just be a good human being and be authentic, be real, show that you're interested in other people. I think the biggest thing too, you said, make social media a party, not a pulpit. And that's what it is. If we're just keeping it so real and authentic and showing that we're interested in other people and asking the perspective questions, we can't help but just gravitate the right people. Do you know what I mean? And just like energy gravitating to us.
Yeah.
So it was phenomenal. I got a lot out of it, and I can't wait to listen to the replay.
Good. It was my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for you.
Same.
They loved it too, it looks like.
Awesome.
Well, have a nice night, guys. Thank you. And the recording will be up tomorrow morning, and I'll also send it to you, Doug.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thank you.